The deck is meant to help retirees build a life with more intention, connection, and joy. And yeah, it's a new product. So really would love your feedback. I do have some guided questions. I see some things in the chat as well. But yeah, if folks want to go off mute and contribute, yeah, would love to hear your thoughts.
So thank you, Michelle. If you notice, I just set the recording because someone asked for it because has to sign off for another purpose, and it's one of those things I forgot to do at the outset. Thanks, Michelle, for giving us kind of a baseline understanding of the product and how you developed it and what it looks like and feels like and so on. I know there are questions. Your thoughts? How does this strike you? This is an opportunity for input to a product that's still in development, right? I mean, it looks wonderful, and I'm excited about it. It's something different than what I've seen in the market. But we have lots of experts in the room, and including people who are actually in their retirement years and people who work with those who are in their retirement years or planning for their retirement years. We would love to have your thoughts about how this is structured and how it might be used. So who wants to unmute themselves and go first? Or you can put your comment or question in the chat and we'll use it that way.
I'll start.
All right, go ahead.
Michelle, what is your long-term goal? Is it for individuals or families to do this, or are you looking at a wider distribution to include other kinds of organizations or entities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is a journey, definitely, working on a product. So yeah, my initial thought was actually that it is a gift, that you would, that was my initial initial thinking around it, where you would get these really nice designed and packaged cards for someone as a gift, and you would perhaps provide it for them to use individually. But as I've been speaking to folks about it, it does sound like it might be helpful to be in groups, whether it is in a more curated setting with professionals or perhaps just even with friends. So I am curious, now that you've seen this, if you would use it alone or with other groups.
Well, I'm involved in this kind of work myself, and I find that there are a lot of organizations, college campuses, senior citizen centers that I think, would really embrace what you're trying to do here, and to bring it to a broader audience. I'm just very impressed with what you've done and would love to talk to you offline as well about sharing some more ideas that could be helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to speak with you offline. So yeah, if anyone else also would be interested in speaking offline, just I guess place your email in the chat. And this is exactly what I'm looking for. I just want to hear from folks' feedback.
Other thoughts?
Yeah. Hi, Michelle. I love your ideas, categories, and so forth, and to take action. But what would I think enhance it is really when you take action to be able to record what is it that you did so that you can reflect back, you can see that you're making progress, or you see that, hey, wow, you know what? Storytelling and legacy, I really like that area, And so, without that, it's wonderful. There are some other decks of cards that I'll share with you. I have it. I can't remember the name. Well, anyway. But anyway, the whole idea of really having an impact and writing something down or recording it, like that's why journals are so valuable because you can look back, what did you do, so forth on the date. So that would be, my suggestion. If there's a way of, even on the opposite side of the card, is there any way to write something that you do? I don't know. Or do you, how often do you pick the same card? Or is it, you have 30 cards, right?
Mhm.
So is it 6 per or 5 per each of these categories?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. One thing I did consider was perhaps having a package, kind of like an expansion set, where you would have a journal along with it. And then I kind of thinking through it, and I haven't talked to anyone about the journal idea, but yeah, I thought that might be a like
Mhm.
kind of like an add-on. So
Yeah,
I love that you're bringing this up and thinking about it because it kind of validates that a journal might be something helpful.
It,
great.
it could also be on your website, right? Something that people go to and download uh, for for another way to use the cards. Victor, you're on. There you go. We're not hearing you, Victor. We see your hands moving and your mouth moving, but we don't hear sound. So maybe maybe we'll go to Norman and then come back to you. Norman?
Yes, thank you. Michelle, I was just wondering how you decided to pursue this area. It's not often that young people have thoughts about retirement or some of the issues that we're dealing with in our later years. And I'm wondering, was this someone in your family that was going through it, or how else? Were you exposed uh, to this area? Because I think a lot of young people really don't even think about this so far removed from their current life.
I
Yeah,
think you missed the first part of our session, Norman. But do you want to just briefly recap, Michelle, how you
sure.
came to?
Yeah, happy to. No, I think it's really good observation that, yeah, I think most folks don't think of retirement, I think, until you're maybe closer towards it. For me, this is a really personal kind of reason or journey. So my grandparents really close with, yeah, they were retiring, so I saw them go through that journey. My parents are retiring this year, both of them. So I'm seeing them making that transition as well. And yeah, it's kind of almost like what the experiences I saw my grandparents go through. I just want to make sure that others have the most ideal retirement journeys as possible. And so as I see my parents go through it and talking with other older adults, I just thought this would be a good place to potentially make a difference.
And
Yeah, I just
sorry.
wanted to add the other thing I would suggest is that I just retired last year, and I had the luxury of retiring at the time that I chose. But many people do not. Many people end up retiring at a time earlier than what they planned, either for health reasons or to take care of a family member. And I'm not sure if that's something you could work into what you're doing, but I find that that makes the process a lot more challenging for people.
Have you given thought to that, Michelle? And do the cards help to address that kind of circumstance?
Yeah, no, I think that's really great. Yeah, I think my dad is kind of retiring as well before expected for various reasons. So I think it's really, yeah, I think that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it when creating these cards. This is very much more of an intentional transition into retirement. So that's something I can definitely keep in mind. Um, yeah, especially I think as perhaps for folks who are doing it in groups, this might be something interesting to think about.
Okay,
Lisa,
thank you.
Lisa, you're on.
Thank you. So first and foremost, I really applaud your efforts because I think you grabbed onto three really important pillars that many people struggle with. Um, and I love the design of I can see your creativity in action just by looking at these little examples. So I think it's great. I love that it's not, there's a million books written about this topic, which is great, but I like the action orientation of it. And so I run a company that helps people do life planning in retirement, plan their lives in retirement. And people love frameworks. It breaks things down, the journaling and being able to use these cards and almost take a little bit of a like for like an assessment, but I use that word very light, you know what I mean? A measure of where am I on these things, or which of these do really light me up and do I want to spend some time in? I think that all works really great. The question I have though, as I was looking at some of the prompts, I'd love to like look at them, is how did you come up with those prompts and where did you get those prompts from?
Yeah. I would say for the prompts, I just, it's like hard to explain. I just kind of thought about it for a while. So I was looking online. I actually just really love ducks in general and self-reflection. So I have a lot of tools just that I've used for my own personal use, and that might, yeah, I think that kind of explains as well kind of how I've headed in this direction. Like I have a lot of icebreaker cards, journal cards. So a lot of it was inspired by that, by thinking through retirement. And what I want to do as well is show more folks the prompts that I have to get feedback. That would be one of my next kind of stages in development. But before I did that, I wanted to see at first if it would resonate.
Yeah, as a proof of concept, just from the little bit that I saw, I know it's more than that. It really resonates well. And I think you're right, because I do things with people in retirement and we do stuff with companies and individuals. And oftentimes people will say, geez, this is more than just for retirees or pre-retirees. This is a good kind of tool to help people with planning at various stages. But I like what you're saying. I think the fact that you're gearing this towards kickstarting your retirement, you want to make sure those prompts are solidly within the context of retirees.
Mhm.
Congrats, it looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here and providing the feedback.
Doug, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Perfect.
And then we'll get
Uh,
to you, Jan.
Sorry to jump a little bit ahead, Jen. So circling back, I know Monica was talking a little bit about the journaling and how that would add a little bit more detail, but I think also kind of leaving it a little bit more open for people to decide how they want to utilize the cards is really important, because I think the more you add on, the more it feels like, I know this sounds silly, but like a homework assignment, like, oh, if I didn't do A, B, or C, I didn't get enough out of it. But if you leave it just blank enough, people can start Facebook groups and be like, hey, who wants to do the 30-day Kickstarter challenge with me? And then now you're building communities either online or at senior centers or at, group homes or whatever the case is. And so people can kind of figure out and pick and choose what works best for them. And so, like Lisa was saying, it's great that this is for like an older adults, but also like, let's say, my daughter graduates and goes to a new city. Like this would also allow her to explore the area, connect with new individuals, connect with people. And I think that's the idea of like, how am I re-engaging with the community in my current position, in my current stage of life? So I think that's kind of the perspective that I'm getting from your cards, which I think is really amazing, that it isn't just for one specific group, but as we explore it and expands, it kind of connects with it's multi-generational.
Yeah, that was a question. Oh, sorry, Lisa, I see.
Well,
I was just going to tap on to Victor 2 seconds. I'm sorry, Jan, I don't mean to be rude, but I love what you said, Victor. And I think, Michelle, you could create different versions because I appreciate that this could be multi-generational. However, if I'm like really itching, I want the ones that are really specific for me. So it's almost like the context. It's funny in my research, I found a lot of synergies our daughter was getting ready, our youngest, to go off to college. And that life planning at the beginning of your career and the life planning as you exit your career, there's some synergies there, but yet there's some specifics that are really specific. So you could have a whole series of these for different stages of life. And now I promise I'll shut up.
Oh,
Great.
great.
Talk about product extension. There you go. Michelle, did you want to add anything before we go to Jan?
Yeah, I think I really love the kind of overall thought around having yeah, like an expansion pack or then having different versions of it. I think that makes a lot of sense because there are a lot of life transitions. So it's not just retirement, but going to college is a life transition as well, even graduating, getting your first job, becoming a parent. So I think there are a lot of oh, thank you, Nancy. And yeah, I think something I'm curious about is yeah, kind of what are people's thoughts about this being used in, I think we've talked about the group setting, but I am curious if you would imagine this used in your practice. If you do work with older adults in retirement, would you use this individually or as a group?
So let's come back to that question, but I do want to get to Jan and then to Nan, and then we'll go from there. Jan?
Okay, well, Michelle, that was a great setup because one of the things I was going to say, I'm a coach working in mid and later life transitions, and first of all, I think coaches would be particularly there's a lot of retirement coaches out there would be a great target audience for you for these cards. But one of the things I do in addition to individual work is group work, which actually, again, implements one of the pillars, which is connections. And that's, so powerfully done within a group setting. I just did a presentation last night at a NORC, a naturally occurring retirement community building. And while people were, a little gingerly coming in, once I did the breakout groups, it was amazing, the connections, the interaction. So I think there's a great deal of application that way in as a group tool. And I think it's wonderful. I just want to add too that to bring your perspective as a younger person to this and what you've been exposed to and bring it into your cards and and as you may expand this into other types of transitions is great because I think a lot of the concepts you're presenting they're right on target and they're familiar concepts to those of us who have been working in the field. But this is, another twist on it to use as a practical tool. So I think you'd have a lot of benefit coming that way for yourself for this product. So good luck with it. It's fabulous.
Great.
Thanks, Jan. And now Nan.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is yeah, I really have enjoyed the session and I think your cards are a great idea. Echoing what some other folks have said, I would myself be interested in having some group doing this together and getting the feedback. And I just thought that perhaps something that you could think of down the line is creating a group on your website or on LinkedIn to have people contribute their thoughts, their insights, their personal experiences, forming connections with other group members online, sort of having a community, an online community of people doing this process, going through this process. Thanks.
Michelle, any comment on that?
Yeah, I love that idea because, yeah, that actually is forming and helping to facilitate the community. Because I was, one of the things I have been wondering is whether folks use this in their own settings, as I mentioned. And so in this case, I could actually help to facilitate that and have that group created for folks so they have that space. I have been looking at different Facebook groups as well for retirees. There's one actually very popular one started by a woman in Australia, of all places. It's very international, though. And yeah, it's a really lively group where people do share their experiences and are able to have that space to discuss everything they're going through in their retirement journey. So I think that's really, yeah, I like the idea of putting it on the website. I think it's a really good suggestion.
Lisa also has mentioned a book that is relevant to this topic, which is by Bruce Feiler, Life is in the Transitions. And she's put a link in the chat for those of you who may want to check out that book. It's one that's fairly popular and used widely on this topic. So I think we're looking at linkages here, right, between a variety of resources, this being one, but also connecting to others in this growing ecosystem. Jim.
Yes, thanks, Michelle. Congratulations on getting started in this. I want to just pick up on a comment or two that I've noticed in the chat. Uh, one comment provides you some feedback on the word retirement. And as a member of the Encore Network, I'm be self-serving with my thought. Uh, on the one hand, retirement will certainly capture uh, the way a lot of people think about the next phase of their lives. But Encore itself uh, gives a different perspective. And I'm not suggesting you change your card necessarily, but you might think about adding resources. Depending on how far people want to go with this next phase of their life, resources like the Encore Network, resources like coaches, and other organizations can be helpful.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I really like the idea. I had spoken as part of my research and just overall speaking with folks in the space. I connected with Professor Golden at Stanford's Longevity Center, and she had said that, and actually, yeah, also her book, States Not Age, she had said that distribution and just connecting folks who work in this space with older adults is something that doesn't really like exist in a big central place. So I think if this could be kind of, if this could provide connections in that form, I can see how this could benefit the community beyond just having this one product, but having kind of like an ecosystem where, for example, like coaches could be on the site, and like businesses could be referred there too.
And the advantage of having it on your website is that you can constantly update it, whereas with cards it would be much more complicated. But if you had a reference on the cards to the website where people can get more information on each of the topics, that could be another way to think about this.
Mhm.
Other thoughts? We have a number someone says, I like how open-ended these are. And I struggle with, is that what you, this is someone else who's saying, I struggle with the word retirement. Yeah, that is a big issue. And as Jim pointed out, there's a question about whether you sort of embrace the word and infuse new meaning or a broader understanding of what is possible in retirement, or come up with alternatives. And honestly, I've sort of given up on the notion that we can come up with alternatives. All the alternatives I've seen are kind of silly, like rewirement and refirement and re-this and re-that. It gets a little silly. Retirement is not an ideal word, but it's not also a word that we can't improve in terms of the way it's used and the meaning that it implies. Dan, back to you.
Yes, hi again. Yeah, so it occurs to me that another term, it would be second act, which I've heard, which is not as sort of pejorative, or I don't want to say the word retirement's pejorative, rather it's sort of like retiring from life, where I don't think that's what any of us want. I think we want to be engaged with life and being in the flow of life. without having necessarily a structure of work. I think that's why people, I know it has for me, I've had sort of a forced retirement due to health concerns. And I guess I was hoping that I would be hearing from other people about how they have navigated retirement and how they have found meaning and connection, and to sort of get some ideas to apply to myself, just kind of sharing personal experiences would be very helpful.
Well, we'd love to hear that. So if others have ideas to share, and by the way, this can all be relevant for Michelle as she continues to think and develop this product. Denise.
Hi, I'm from the UK. I'm not sure if I'm the only one. But I made some major life changes at 60. And at 61, I started a PhD researching how people find meaning. The title of my thesis is How Do People Find Meaning in Life After Full-Time Work, and What Are the Psychological Factors That Help? I'm a psychologist, so it had to tie in with an occupational psychology department. I'm approaching 68 now, and what's really fascinating about doing this research at my age is you'd read research by younger researchers who would talk about the elderly people, and these were people 55 plus, and we're not elderly. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do this, but that's the book of my academic research. And it got published by a major publisher, and it seems to be doing quite well. But it's all about the importance of meaning and what it is. And when Nan was saying, it means so many things to different people.
Retirement.
So for somebody, meaning can be they're setting up this, this huge third act and this big non-for-profit or whatever. And somebody else, it's just walking down the road and smiling at other people and saying hello and actually having time for people. And for me, alongside the research I do, and I've got 2 more books I've been commissioned to write, but for me, it's spending time in nature. And that gives me greater meaning than any of my client work, any of my consultancy. And who would have thought at 40, 50, 60 that it would be nature that is the most important thing, probably. And American people never quite know what I mean by a wood, but I own a small forest. And I took money out of my pension fund to buy land. And so, but that's just talking about the experience of being me and what it means for me. And when I'm working with clients, I worked with somebody from New York as general counsel, and the dilemma he had about making this choice and this change about what to do. And he messaged me a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, and said, I've done it, and but it was creating the new life. Because I think the cards are really useful, Michelle, and I have actually got my own under development. It's similar but different, it's based on my academic research, which was 11,000 people. It was a massive thing that I did. But it's about finding out what's right for us, and anything that just helps us to have the conversation, because you don't want anybody to tell us what to do. Because, if all of us here are over whatever age we happen to be, all our opinions are equally valid. And so somebody said something, I can't remember the word, but I often use the word space. And we don't want to be too tied down by a really fixed, this is what we have to do, and we have to do these 10 questions and this, that, and the other. Space to see what comes. So when I wasn't sure whether to speak up, but when Nan had said about other people's perspective, and I think it's quite. I mean, Lisa, I don't know how old Lisa is, but she was saying about working with people in this sort of retirement, later life space as well. And I think there's something very, very inspiring to others when they see people in their late 60s, 70s, whatever, who are like a step ahead of people coming up to retirement. So that's my
Well, thank you,
personal
Denise.
perspective.
Welcome. Would you put a link to your book in the chat so that others of us can check it out?
Okay.
Sounds very relevant to this conversation. Thank you. Norman.
Just in response to the question that was asked before, I've been retired now for about, I'd say, eight or 9 months, and I was really very concerned about it. But one of the things that I've been doing, kind of tongue in cheek, I started a group called Secrets to a Satisfying Retirement, which is an online group of people who have either approaching retirement or who have been retired for a while. And I did it really with the idea of getting ideas from others that maybe I could apply for myself. But in the short time I've been running this group, I run it every week, one hour on Zoom, is what I have found is that retirement can be a lot more pleasant if you just kind of relax and just plan at least one or two things a day so that you don't wake up to an empty calendar. I think one of the problems we might have is to think that, like when we were at work, we have a relatively full day every day, and that's not what retirement is going to be like. So that's one thing that I think helps, at least it has helped for me. And the other thing I would recommend is that when I talk to other people, everybody has a different approach to this. It's not like any one way of doing it is going to necessarily work for one person because it work for someone else. So what I try to tell people is just get ideas from other people, and some of them you may want to try, or you may want to try in a different way, but it really is a very personal journey. And for me, it's really just been a matter of getting comfortable with the idea of being a little uncomfortable for a while I work this out. It's not something that you can easily read a book or, I mean, I'm sure the ideas in Michelle's project are going to be helpful to a lot of people because many people are struggling with this. But I think in the end, we have to kind of figure this out for ourselves. And it does take a little time for that to happen.
Well, I think one of the advantages of Michelle's approach is that it does allow the reflective process to make to turn these prompts into something that's personal and useful for individuals. You know, different people are going to respond in different ways to these prompts and these ideas. At least I think that's the idea. Is that a fair way to describe your intention, Michelle, in developing these prompts?
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's a way to provide just enough structure. So just yeah, like one card a day, like one activity per day, and that would provide something to look forward to and do that day without needing to do like all 30 cards at once. That's something as well that I found when talking with folks is sorry, my calendar just keeps going off. Yes, that's something I found when talking with folks, which is that having something each day to look forward to, but not so intense, but something to look forward to each day was very helpful. So I think that's really good as something to think about.
And I think the group that you've organized, Norman, is an amazing idea. We need more of that. Lisa.
Great discussion. Doug, you always pull such a good group of people together. It's very fascinating. So two things. One, Norman, to go off of what you said, I found the same thing, that you want to create and leave that space for people, but also what's nice about Michelle's work and what I find, people need a framework to kind of think of things through, I find. And that way they can be more intentional about, and that's what you were saying, like you pick the one thing you want to do today or whatever, but you can be more intentional about that. Because otherwise, I think what I've seen with people I work with and myself is you just fall into like routines that just don't bring you meaning, and you're kind of like filling your time instead of really living your time, kind of thing. And then the other thing that someone said that I thought was really interesting, and Michelle, I'm not sure how you could incorporate this in it. Maybe it's on your website, but there's a huge thing around storytelling and stories, because if we're going to reinvent what we mean by retirement, that it's not, the blue plate special and just like, gardening, golfing, grandkids, nothing wrong with any of that stuff, but that's like the boundary that it's historically been in that traditional view. So many people are living lives beyond that. And I think just sharing those stories and examples, I don't know if there's a way to do that, that these prompts kind of, the impact of those prompts, right, to some degree, like how that manifests itself in people's lives would be really cool. I think people would like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
It- Go ahead,
Oh,
Michelle.
sorry. Yes, I really like the emphasis on storytelling. The Navy card is the topic for that is storytelling and legacy. So I think that's very validating to hear that. And I think it's actually a tie in really well with the journal idea as well. Because you're writing the journal, so you're kind of telling the story to yourself, and it also helps for you to think about. I think as if you think about your own stories and you write them down, then it's a bit easier to tell the story to others. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And as humans, we're just kind of wired to love stories. So
It Ordo had to leave a little early, but he said, my time is spent volunteering with junior achievement, mentoring high school and middle school students, as well as being a part of Kiwanis, a service organization. And he says, the more we do for our communities, the more it comes back to us. And I think that also is true of work. Many people in retirement want to continue to work in one way or another. An increasing share need to continue working. I'm not sure exactly how that fits into the series of prompts that you've created, but I think that is something that's on a lot of the minds of a lot of people in this life stage. So if it's not in there, there may be a way or maybe a need to integrate that in some way. And Victor is very much in this space, so I don't know whether his comment addresses this or not, but Victor, you're on.
Yeah, so kind of circling back to what Norman had said, and I lost her name. Oh, Lisa was jumping in on, was this idea of creating kind of like a framework. So I'm with college. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out my pitch. So NM New, so we work with older adults who are like in transition from retirement, wanting to go back to work. So one of the classes that we held last year, sometimes we do learning events, was how do you figure out what your retirement looks like? So we had our presenters come in and really just say, here are the tools. These are the tools to help you figure out what your retirement will look like, right? Because there's not a catch-all. I don't know what Lisa's retirement is going to look like versus Doug versus Jim. So what I really like about these cards and these prompts is that it kind of forces an individual to try something new. Like what if, how the example you gave, they reviewed a local business and they're like, oh, I really like reviewing. What if I like start doing that and going around and reviewing other local businesses and organizations? And that's not something that they thought of doing. So I think it kind of really helps reframe someone's perspective and mindset of, oh, I didn't realize that this is something that I would like to do. I didn't know that this was even an option. So that's just some of the feedback that I get from older adults as far as there's an almost overwhelming amount of things to do, but you don't know what to do and how to get started. It's like you go to that restaurant that has like 80 pages of items and you're like, is any of this good? I don't know what I want to try first. So sometimes it's better 30 days, 30 cards that kind of give you a nice sample size of where to get started because it's just a piece here, but it's meant to get you to branch off into other aspects that you never thought about it. So I think that's kind of the general feel that I'm getting from the cards. And then really quick circling back, I know we all have a problem with the word retirement and senior and elder and whatever the case is, but I think sometimes I think maybe it's an evolution of words because as I pitch, our program, I'm like, hey, this is for older adults who want to go back to work. I get the, ooh, no, I would never go back to work. I don't want to volunteer. I don't want that to be my life. So I think there is a place for a retiree. They're just like, no, this is, the stereotypical retiree life. That's what I want. And then the next level will be, well, I want to be an engager. I want to be engaged in my community and in my world. And I don't know what that looks like, so I need help with that. So I think it's just finding a level of words that kind of encompasses like where you are, even as an older adult transitioning into these new positions.
Great.
Um,
Michelle, we're winding down. Do you want to sort of sum up your take from the conversation today and where you think this leads you next?
yeah, no, I think this has been a really wonderful discussion. And I yeah, again want to say thank you to everyone who's here, and everyone who has also yeah, has kind of contributed thoughts. It does sound, I think my takeaways, it does sound like having this in a group setting might be interesting. And having kind of the light structure is helpful. So maybe not providing even more structure, but just having that light prompt that you can do every day or every other few days would be something that's interesting. So it does sound, yeah, I think I've been thinking a lot about whether the idea is something that is promising or not. And I think from what I've been hearing, there is potential here to make a difference. So I think I'm just going to continue having more conversations and then, yeah, kind of launch it live. And yes, retirement. So I have been very purposely been using the word older adults. I used to work for a software company where we worked with Medicare agents. So yeah, we definitely wanted to not use um, words like elder. Yeah.
Please mute yourself, Bob.
Yeah, so we were really looking at the word older adults, but it's just interesting. I think terminology is very important to think about. So I think even retirement, I did like second act. So I think retirement could be something to look at as well. I just put in my email in the Zoom chat. Would love to hear from everyone, any other thoughts you might have. I also really like the idea of having that central part of the website where I could perhaps link to other resources. So for example, the Nacer book might be something that'd be interesting to put on there. So if folks are interested in kind of being in a resources section on the website, would love to hear from you as well. Because I also want to give back and see how I might be able to help everyone else with their endeavors.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your creativity. Thanks to all of you for the conversation today. We have two upcoming meetings. I'm going to mention one briefly, and then I want to ask Amy to talk briefly about another. The one coming up in 2 weeks, May 15th, is focused on how older entrepreneurs are using AI, the various tools that are now available through various AI applications to kind of get a leg up and to manage their businesses in ways that just weren't previously possible. We've got a wonderful panel. I think it's going to be a really fun discussion with demonstrations and so on. So be sure to sign up for that. And Amy has a program coming up at the end of May, I believe, if I'm remembering the dates, May 21st, I think. So Amy, do you want to say a couple words about that? You're muted.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit with this. If people are looking for a tool that can help them actually design, the topic is design a better, fuller life. And it's based on some research that is done by a professor from the University of Chicago. And basically, what I've done, because I love this book, was create a tool that utilizes his research and helps people identify what they love doing and what they like doing. Because in reality, what we love and like doing is what we want to build on in our retirement. And one of the aspects of what we're going to talk about is how do you boost what you already like doing? And I'm thinking that the kinds of cards or activities that Michelle has
has identified would be really fun ones for people to think about. But even without those, we're going to really get into it and help people identify what do you like doing? What do you love doing? How do you do more of it? There is not one size fits all. Everybody isn't looking for meeting. Everyone isn't looking for adventure. Everybody isn't looking for just happiness. So you have so much personal data. Why not cherry pick what you like doing and then basically add to that? So I have this tool. I'm kind of excited to pilot it, and I want to just see how it goes. So I'd like to invite all of you who are curious and who seem excited about helping people kickstart or make the most of their retirement, or frankly, just kickstart your life. I invite you. I hope you'll join us.
So kind of a continuation of today's discussion.
Absolutely, Doug.
So you can find out more about that at encorenetwork.org /events list. You can also learn about our spring membership campaign where you can get 25% off the cost of membership. Go to encorenetwork.org /join. You'll never get a better deal than this. So I'm looking forward to those upcoming programs. Thanks again to Michelle. And thanks again to all of you. Have a wonderful day.